right, back with us again is the one and only John Massaria. GoodPixelProductions.com is his website. He's an activist and a filmmaker, all aspects of production and editing, short films, interviews, music videos, you name it. Professional audio engineering on location, video production and editing with Grammy Award winners like Angela Hunt and singer-songwriter Andrea Monica Martin, Doxy Jones, as well as many others in the music business. He's filmed all-day live events such as Liberty Fest 2014 and 2015 for Next News Network, full-feature documentary with world-renowned artist Anthony Freda, filmed and produced interviews with Peter Cooper, Spy vs. Spy artist. You remember Spy vs. Spy? You don't? Oh, it's great. You should look into it. Gerald Celente from Trends Journal, filmed director of photography of a 6-hour interview with NSA whistleblower William Binney for Tragedy and Hope magazine with Richard Grove. Edited and composed videos with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts and Patrick Wood. Produced videos for Dane Wigington, Russ Tanner, and TMR Radio UK. Most recent work includes SEAL Team 6 documentary of Extortion 17 and video and audio interviews with Michael K. Williams of The Wire, Boardwalk Empire, and Kill the Messenger. Currently working on I Love My Country, But I Hate What They're Doing, Part 2. Featuring prominent Swiss historian and researcher Dr. Danielle Ganser, Tommy Hansen, Gerald Celente, Anthony Freda, Ken O'Keefe, Gary Franke, Ray McGovern, and Joe Rogan. Notable works, Thought Crimes of Anthony Freda. I'm saying Freda, it might be Frida. I'll find out. Frida, okay. Oh, there he is, a disembodied voice. He's my invisible friend. John, hang on. I'm just going to get through it just a little bit more because he's got quite a CV here. 9/11 Museum, New York City, accepts Truther art into permanent collection. Patrick Wood series. NSA whistleblower William Binney, The Future of Freedom. Follow the Money, Plausible Deniability Denied. And video interviews with NIST whistleblower Peter Ketchum for A&E for 9/11 Truth. Currently executive producer on Rogue Narc, the story of DEA Kiki Camarena and Hector Berrellez. Must be Berrellez, and unraveling the CIA DEA double agent operations called Operation Twofold, and the CIA involvement with drug running and drug operations never published before. Yeah. John, are you a danger seeker or what? Yeah.
No, I don't think I do it for the danger. I do it more for, I don't know, John. It's a calling, just like what you're doing. It's a calling. So I love it. I love hearing people's stories. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. 5x5. Okay. It's great.
I don't know why I've been blessed to meet these people, but I have been, and they trust me. I like doing it. I like to portray the people's stories in a way that's going to be archived in a long-term kind of like 50 years down the road, 60 years down the road. Somebody's going to discover this and understand a little bit more about our history. So it's important to do it the right way, not just with an iPhone or a shaky camera. You know, bring the whole crew there, and we do have a whole crew, and we bring them wherever we need to go. We went to Washington. We interviewed Ray McGovern, a bunch of other people too, like Donald Jeffries, and a few other people too. But who is it? William Blum and William Still from the Money Masters. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, The Money Masters. Awesome movie. But anyway, it's just intriguing to me. I don't have a death wish, no.
You know, we speaking of Kiki Camarena, we had a long discussion with Philip Jordan, who knew Kiki. Great guy.
Yeah, he got some things a little confused, and I think he was a little nervous at the end, where you asked him about Clinton and the whole drug running thing. I'm not sure if it was real clear, but he definitely knows who was drug running and who wasn't. And when you asked it, you know, he knows all about Mina and the whole Clinton involvement there. He's friends with Hector for a long time. They're really good buddies. And I talked to Phil, but I talked to Hector almost every single day, like 3 or 4 times a day sometimes. And I try to make audio recordings of it. I'm not sure if you know the whole backstory with Charles Bowden or Chuck Bowden.
No, I don't.
Okay, so he wrote the stories that were surrounding the Iran-Contra thing. He's a very, very gifted writer. He died, I believe it was at 69 years old. Let me just see here. Yeah, I think he died at 69. He died in 2014. Yeah. So he wrote stories with like Gary Webb, okay? And he wrote the preface to his Gary Webb story, Kill the Messenger and that kind of thing. So he and Hector Berrellez were very, very good friends. He spent a long time at his house. He's a very gifted writer. He's written all kinds of great stories. I strongly recommend people read his work because it's not just conspiracy stuff. It's just it's all about a beautiful storytelling. So if you want to watch beautiful in a book, if you want to watch a beautiful story unfold in your mind, his gift to tell the story is truly remarkable. Unfortunately, he died, and his Blood on the Corn is one of his more famous kind of articles, and then Molly Malloy kind of took over that article. That explores the whole entire Kiki Camarena thing, but at that time, he couldn't. Hector Berrellez couldn't really tell Chuck Bowden or Molly Malloy what was really going on because there was a contract down in his life. They were going to bring him and extradite him back to Mexico and basically assassinate him. So he waited till 2013 to come out and talk publicly, where he met with news personality. I think it was Megyn Kelly, was it? Yeah. And they only took a small portion of his interview, and they cut everything else out. And when he called up the news station, he found out that Oliver North is the one who interfered and told them, because he's in charge of a lot of things at Fox News. I understand he has a big stake in Fox News. They told him that they better not even, that their jobs are on the line, that if they don't listen to everything he says, basically that they could lose their jobs. So he said, basically, do not print or talk about anything to do with the Kiki Camarena interview with Hector Berrellez or Phil Jordan or Tosh Plumlee. Now, Tosh Plumlee is a different kind of personality. Hector and Tosh don't exactly see eye to eye on a lot of things, and that was because of things that were uncovered. So I don't know if you know Tosh Plumlee or if you're familiar with his work.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So they have a difference of opinion. We also have Debbie Bowen, who's really good friends with Hector Berrellez. They talk at least once a week. Debbie Bowen, Debbie Seal. Debbie Seal is very good friends with Hector Berrellez. Debbie Seal is Barry Seal's wife. And she has a lot of knowledge about what was really going on at that time. And they gave her, I think it was around $350,000 to make that movie called, then it was called Nina, which was starring Tom Cruise. And then it got changed to American Made, and she was pretty upset about how they portrayed her husband and how they didn't really tell the whole truth. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It has relevance today because the same players that basically were surrounding and killing and murdering people, especially Kiki Camarena and the other people, were involved with drug trading, and they're still living. Some of them live in Miami right now, free men, not even being charged, even though there were 3 recipient witnesses that observed the death of Kiki Camarena. So it's a pretty intriguing story. Caro Quintero, who was let out in 2013, prompted Hector to speak out. He was upset because he killed Kiki Camarena, and he's been trying to tell people, listen, Caro Quintero is a murderer. He killed a lot of people. He's a drug runner. And according to Hector, he's now in charge of something called the New Generation. The New Generation is he's like basically the drug lord of Mexico right now. Caro Quintero, the same guy who killed Kiki Camarena, who did some 20 years in jail, was let out of jail, and in 2013 outraged Hector and a bunch of other people, including Phil Jordan, and he's now back in charge. El Chapo got taken down in 2017 in New York City. They brought him to New York, and this was, from what I understand, that Hector was trying to explain to me, that the Mexican government allowed Caro Quintero to come back He's not even on the most wanted list in Mexico. You'll see all the other drug lords there, but not Caro Quintero. And he has informants that he just spoke to last week, and I just confirmed with him before we got on the air that Caro Quintero is in charge of a large portion of drug running still going on in Mexico. And we have, I think there's some kind of reward, like $500,000 for his capture in America. But in Mexico, he's free and clear. They don't know where he is. They don't know what he's doing. But everybody seems to know that he's in charge again. And he took the place of El Chapo.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And where's El Chapo now?
El Chapo, I understand he's going through the system of him being tried for drug running. He's eluded the drug. He's traded the drug charges solely with the district attorney, the attorney general. And this was under Obama before he got extradited to America, to seek no death penalties or death charges, murder charges of any American citizens, even though El Chapo was responsible for, I think it was 4 Jehovah's Witnesses. He was there. They had recipient witnesses. Hector knows them. They'll tell you El Chapo killed these Americans. They were Jehovah's Witnesses in Mexico that knocked on the door of El Chapo, of Caro Quintero, I think it was, or maybe it was Felix Gallardo. I don't remember. But anyway, El Chapo was the Sicario at the time, and he murdered these people along with a bunch of other people. They were just Jehovah's Witnesses. They were American citizens. They just knocked on the wrong door at the wrong time. They got raped and murdered later on. That was one set of Americans that got killed by El Chapo. And then the other set was 2 guys who wandered into a restaurant. And then in the back of the restaurant, they eventually, they thought that they were DEA undercover. So they wound up killing those guys in the back of the restaurant. And that was El Chapo as well. And, of course, El Chapo had involvement in the Kiki Camarena murder. He was there. He's the one who picked up the pilot. That's the pilot that was found buried on top of Kiki's body or underneath his body, I think it was. But he was buried alive. He had dirt in his lungs, and they said that he was still breathing when they buried him.
Brother.
So we're not seeking any charges of murder to El Chapo, which outrages Hector and, of course, Phil Jordan and other people. But that's why it's relative today, because it's still going on today. This whole thing with Kiki Camarena has a lot more it's a very large case. It took Chuck Bowden, the guy who I was speaking about, that author, it took him 16 years to write The Blood and the Corn, and he couldn't even complete it because he passed away, and then Molly took it over. And I guess now, over the last 9 months, I've been getting to know Hector and the whole entire story. It's a very complicated story, but it's very intriguing, so I'm breaking it up into little parts. And I think you got to watch a little part of a gun battle. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The little episode 6, it's 7 minutes worth. It's pretty frightening. That was awfully well done. You know, it's almost, I could just imagine what it's like to actually be in there. Now, I just have to ask, was that a reenactment or was that actual stuff?
Well, that was a reenactment, but it was a true story told by Hector, and then I just made the video to reenact what he was talking about.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's pretty scary stuff. It almost looked like murder and mayhem in progress, the way you did that. That black and white was like, that. I still think that's a fantastic treatment. If you really want to see what's going on, put it in black and white and take the razzle-dazzle color out of it, and then people will get the message real quick.
Yeah, the reason why I did that was because he was telling a story about something that happened in 1987, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that was considered the longest gun battle in DEA history, and it still is today. It was almost 3 hours, and he wound up getting a Medal of Valor and a Medal of Honor for saving the lives of these guys that he pulled out of the truck. He pulled them out of the truck and he drove them to a taxi cab. And then he switched with the taxi cab owner, and then he takes the taxi cab back to the gun battle. And the taxi cab gets all shot up. It's a funny story because at the end of the gun battle, first of all, there were thousands of rounds that went off on both sides. This is not usual. You know, the Medal of Valor that he got basically says right in it, if you read it, and I should have it up for you guys to see so I can read it verbatim. but it's not really necessary. Basically, I think it says something like, for a comparison of time and how long a gun battle goes on, usually it's about 20 minutes. In Vietnam, that was the average gun battle. And then they would shoot, they would run away, or they would get cover from the air. So that was the normal duration of an average gun battle, 20 minutes. So Hector was there for almost 2 hours and 40-something minutes, just fighting with these guys nonstop. And it was just a crazy, crazy battle. And it's very cinematic the way he tells it. So I love that battle scene. And the thing about the taxi coming back to the scene is just kind of humorous. And then he winds up taking the taxi cab back to the station. And the taxi cab owner, after a couple of weeks, comes back and looking for it. And he finds out that his taxi was all shot up. And they wound up buying it from the taxi cab, buying it for the taxi cab and giving him $7,000 for the taxi. And then he comes back like another 2 weeks later, saying he wants to buy the taxi cab with all the holes in it back. So,
what was it? I wonder if it was a checker. It's pretty easy to understand.
No, he gave him the same 20s that he gave him the first time. They took it from the funds that they had seized from other drug cartels. Whatever.
No, I mean the car. I wonder if it was actually a checker, because those things are built
it was a checker. I checked all the details on the car, the guns, all that stuff. All of that is factual. It was a checker.
Built like a brick outhouse.
Hector watched it, and he goes, dude, you nailed that car exactly. You even got the interior perfect. He said, I don't know how you did that. But anyway, so he gives him back the $3,500 to buy the taxi cab back. And he says, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it really nice. He winds up buying it back from Hector, gives him back half the money. And then a couple of weeks later, Hector's leaving, and he sees the taxi cab driver in the town with just Bondo covering up the bullet holes. and he fixed the glass, but he didn't fix the bullet holes. It's just like written, and it was full of blood from all the people that were being brought to the hospital and stuff. So it was just a crazy, crazy story. It sounds like nothing I could ever write,
No, you can't make that stuff up. No, I got to make a living, man. It doesn't matter if I got some bullet holes, some blood on the floor. I got to go to work. Wow.
Yeah, so he wound up going to Washington, D.C. They honored him with the Medal of Valor. And in L.A., he wound up getting the, I guess it was the Medal of Valor and Honor. One was in Washington, one was in L.A. Big ceremonies. He went by, his DEA agents went to get celebrated by a big event, signed by all the top people in Washington, D.C. And then he winds up taking over the Kiki Camarena murder. And then he starts to have his whole world fall apart because he's learning all the truth about the CIA involvement with the drug running, Oliver North, Felix Rodriguez, and all the other players. And then he also learned about the CIA DEA double agents. And that was all underneath something called Operation Twofold. And then he learns that the guy who's in charge of the DEA is actually a double agent. His name is Terry Burke. And then after Terry Burke retires from the DEA, he winds up going work for Carl Quintero's attorney.
I mean, there must have been a lot of money involved here, I guess when you're doing that kind of duty, you got to spend carefully. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. What's in it for these guys to go double agent? It's got to be money, right? I mean, what else is there?
The original document was for Operation Twofold was written in 1971, I believe, and it was to basically, at the time it was the BNDD before the DEA was, constructed by, Richard Nixon. And then what happened was they wanted to they thought that there was a lot of corruption in DEA, which there was. Listen, you're dealing with millions of dollars. Of course, there's going to be corruption there. Somebody's going to want to take something for themselves and their family, right? Not that that's right, but there was corruption. So they used that as an excuse to kind of inject themselves into the CIA would inject themselves, but also control the DEA without any DEA agents knowing. So here it is. They're working. So the CIA, we already know, were the biggest drug runners back during Vietnam and all the way up till pretty much now. So if they can control the DEA, they can control who's shipping, who's not shipping, and who's going to be held up and who's not going to be held up, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah. Oh.
But did you get that the DEA director, who was appointed usually by the president, at that time it was George Bush, went to go work after he retired from the DEA as a CIA double. He went to go work for the attorneys of the largest drug lord, who was even bigger than Pablo Escobar, which was Caro Quintero. He went to go work for the attorneys.
Didn't see Mark Stream Media cover that, did we?
No, nobody talks about that. Caro Quintero is still running around. He's he was, because he was like a multiple drug dealer. He wasn't. Pablo Escobar was basically concentrating mostly on cocaine, where Caro Quintero and his whole gang were running multiple different types of drugs. So you have like heroin and opioids and all the stuff that comes from that. You have the synthetics, and you also have your cocaine, and you have your marijuana. And then he's also the one who pioneered the seedless marijuana that we see pretty much all over the place. Seedless marijuana has twice the amount of THC, I think it is, in it. And that's how his marijuana is worth more at that time, because it was seedless and it was more potent. So it was worth more in the street.
Sensimilla. I get you. Well, I saw that picture, Sicario. And I thought it explained. It didn't get a lot of attention. But if you watch that picture, you kind of go, I think this is awfully close to the reality of things. Not really? No?
No, Hector doesn't like it, and Phil Jordan doesn't like it. And, they said it was a good movie theatrically. Even the movie The Infiltrator, who is one of the producers that I'm working with, I work with him off and on stuff. The guy who made Infiltrator with that guy Krantz, who was in Breaking Bad, remember?
Yeah, Cranston.
Yeah, Cranston, that's it. That also goes through the Barry Seal story a little tiny bit. Even the Kill the Messenger doesn't really touch on all the stuff that we're talking about, because let's face it, Hollywood is going to suppress as much as they can. They'll tell a little bit of truth, so they'll kind of gatekeep a lot of the truth out. But Sicarios was not something that Hector likes at all. If you talk to him about it, he'll say, no, I hate that movie. He doesn't like it.
I even heard that, what is the actor, is that Jeremy Renner? Is that it? That was that played Gary Webb in Kill the Messenger? Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard this rumor from two different sources that there were some people out there that did not like the fact that he did that picture. So,
I'm sure that's true. They don't really touch on how he got murdered. How he got suicided in the back of the head. They talk about it a little bit at the end. He shot himself in the back of the head twice.
Suicide. Yeah. A determined case of suicide. The only one that's more determined was the guy who was, the only thing that was left was his arm on the handle of the meat grinder. The rest of him was just gone, That was the most determined case of suicide ever. Just stood in the thing and just ground himself up.
That reminds me. When Kiki Camarena got murdered, it wasn't just his murder, because I started looking into this, and Hector didn't really look. Sometimes when you go into something, you think about things that are different than that person that's so involved in it.
Yeah. So
I started to look into other DEA agents or law enforcement agents. Let's just face it. I'm not into DEA agents. Let's make this very clear. I'm not into federal agents. I'm not into NSA agents. I like interviewing people that have inside knowledge that'll make us more free. So I want to make that very clear to everybody.
You don't have any kind of a Fed
fetish. Don't think that this guy is supporting, I'm supporting truth, justice, and real freedom for everybody. So let's just make that clear. But anyway, so I started investigating some of the murders that were, or not murders, but accidents that happened during Kiki Camarena. And the same year, 3 other agents died in a helicopter crash on top of a mountain near Mena, Arkansas. And these guys were investigating Mena, Arkansas's drug allegations. And they just wound up dying in this helicopter crash. So I asked Hector about it. He goes, yeah, I remember that. He goes, One of them was a DEA agent. The other two guys were just law enforcement. And I said, did you know that they were investigating this whole Mina connection and that they just so happened to all die in a helicopter crash? And that's almost like extortion 17. You just put everybody in a helicopter crash and blow it up, right? Great way to get rid of people. So that's pretty much setting off red flags for me right there, that these guys just got murdered or killed in an accidental incident. I always start to look up stuff like that, and I'm not sure if you know about this, but remember the Boston bombing?
Yeah.
There were two FBI agents who were in charge of the investigation. They wound up, one was like 34 years old with kids. The other one was like 36 years old or maybe like 38. And they both wound up falling out of a helicopter on a routine exercise 12 miles off the coast of Virginia, Langley, which is right by FBI headquarters, I guess. They just wound up falling out of a helicopter.
Oh, Langley, that's CIA.
Yeah, so I started looking into that, and then I found out that like a day later or 2 days later, the head of the FBI wound up falling out of – I'm sorry, not falling out of the helicopter. That would be weird. He wound up retiring, stepping down, just – and he was in charge of the Boston bombing whole thing. I'm not saying there's anything going on there, but that just sounds awfully weird. Like, these guys were seasoned FBI agents. What are they doing 12 miles off the coast of Virginia and falling out of a helicopter at the same time? What's the chances of that?
I was talking with somebody yesterday, and later on in future programs, I'll tell you who it is. But he's a lot of people know him. A lot of people have watched his TV program. He's got his own radio show now, and I'm speaking with him, and it was really it was funny because we were scheduled to talk together, but later, and somehow it got a little bit screwed up. I wound up calling his program, and it was like, I wasn't expecting to speak to you until the end of the month. It's like, well, it's no big deal. It's just a little teaser what we're going to talk about. Well, as it turns out, he's very close with somebody who lived very close to the Sandy Hook school. And this person, I don't want to say whether it was a man or a woman, because these people are all under some sort of duress up there. Mm-hmm. It was that the word came out, there's a shooting up at Sandy Hook. And the response was, why would there be a shooting at Sandy Hook? It's closed. It's been closed. Then the next thing that happens is that everybody gets, they're not to speak of it at all for a year. There's a gag order, just a general gag order put on everybody.
NDAs.
I mean, look, John, in the end, I mean, I can shorten the program by just, going, John, it's great talking with you. I'm going to put my face in my hands now, and we're just going to fade to black, and then I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We can talk about deserted cities that appear to be there on Mars and on Venus. We can talk about AI is going to get us. We could even talk about how the so-called workers who were falling all over themselves yesterday to protest something. I guess not driving Ferraris and Lambos and stuff like that, because they're the workers, and without them, no manos, no frijoli. No hands, no beans. That's just how it is. We can talk about that kind of stuff, because I'll tell you, the more I look at the activities of this country and the criminal SOBs that have run this thing for all these years and the same families coming up, I mean, really, folks, how hard is it to put this together, seriously? John Hinckley, the Hinckley family, friends with the Bushes, winds up shooting at President Reagan. Right, actually hitting him. Then you see the photographs, and it looks like there's another guy up there that was. There were two assassins there, and then the Bill Clinton standing next to George H.W. Bush, looking like the two of the toughest guys you'd ever not want to ever mess with. And they're standing there side by side, looking up toward something like, what did he say? We may have to take care of this guy. I mean, these guys look like hardcore badasses. They really do. And that's not something I would say about Bill Clinton. But in this picture, I wouldn't say that about G.W. Bush either. These guys looked like some very hard men that something had gotten their attention. And you look at this, and it's like, back in the Vietnam era, they referred to CIA as shipping and receiving. And nobody really believed it. Nobody could believe it. They just thought it was, this is just a bunch of made-up stuff. Then you start hearing these soldiers saying, that were coming back saying, you will carry that package and you will say nothing about it, or you're liable to wind up with an M60 lower receiver in your sea bag. And the rest of that is, and get 20 years in a federal penitentiary for having put it in your sea bag. Just do what you're told and shut up. We know now that some of the bodies of the young men who came back from Vietnam were stuffed with heroin and other drugs,
Yeah, I've interviewed Michael Levine, who is DEA. He says that that's like not even really true. You know what? Who cares if it's true? We know that they were bringing the drugs in one way or another.
Yeah.
We definitely know that they're not. This is my thing. Drugs aren't coming in the seats of people's pants or in their socks or stuffed up their butt or whatever they think that the drugs are coming in by train load, truck load, boat load, airplane load, secretly at secret bases, unmarked bases. There's unmarked airports. There's airports that they use. The smaller, the better, and they just own them. They own those airports. They own the travel routes. They own all that stuff, and that's how it's coming into this country. If you're living in America and you have an opioid epidemic, you know that there's the two who are the gangs in L.A. now. I don't know who they are called now, but those guys don't have the wherewithal to bring in drugs the way they're coming in. They're getting drugs from somewhere. And Hector has even told people at the DEA and the higher-ups at Washington, he goes, we always capture the drug lords. Who's letting the drugs into this country, and where are the drug lords in America?
Well, I read the article myself that a 747 full of cocaine was allowed to cross into American airspace, land, and unload. It was a Sinaloa cartel coke, but they had agreed to, if they could do this, then it was in exchange for help against the Zetas. And it was this tiny little article. It sounds
like Fast and Furious all over, John.
I mean, really. I read this article. It was in print. I'd want to say it was in the L.A. Times. I could be wrong about that, but it was in a major publication. Tiny little article, about 3 inches tall, and, just column width and nothing more. About double the size of the Cuban and Soviet air traffic being opened in Grenada, back in 79, I guess it was. So, but why somebody could, number one, print this, and number two, get away with printing it, and number three, nobody picked it up.
Well, there's all sorts of airplanes. I think in 2008 there was an airplane that got that crashed, and there was a shitload of drugs on the airplane, and it was traced back to America, and it was American corporation. What they do is they have these dummy corporations that are basically owned by the CIA. This is, or they have companies set up that are dummy corporations through banks and proxy other companies, and then but ultimately they're coming through, and they once in a while they'll slip through the net and they'll get caught, and they're like, oops, and then they'll print an article and then it'll go away real fast. Nobody will investigate. Nobody will really talk about it. Because that, let's face it, it's not getting smuggled in people's suitcases at the airport. It's not coming in through people's cars in the back of their, spare tire or whatever. It's not how it's coming into this country, people. You got to realize that the drug epidemic, because I went to a meeting here in my town. I live on Long Island, New York. There were 1,580 people that showed up just in the small little town I live in. That showed response to the opioid problem that's going on right now, that's affecting all of our children and our mothers and fathers that are dealing with all these issues. How do you think all this crap gets on the street? It's not coming in through the little tiny punk drug dealers.
Yeah.
It's coming in because somebody's letting it come in, and they're making a lot of money. It's an epidemic everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to show people that this history that we're talking about now has everything to do with now. It has everything to do with Carcantero and the Mexican government making a deal with Pablo Escobar. It has everything to do with the president, even President Trump. He's letting this. The epidemic isn't going away. It's going higher up. So something's going on. He's not taking responsibility at all. I'm not happy with any president really since maybe JFK. Maybe that guy had some things going on. Nobody's perfect, but let's face it, Trump is no savior here. He's not saving our country, not in any way. And that's just my opinion. At least on this particular issue, I could say for sure that he's not doing it. anything about it because it's money coming into all these organizations. They said that if the Mexican government were to give up the drug trade, their country would go completely bankrupt because they make more money on that than any export and any vacation vocation. The vacation trade, I guess, when people go there on tourism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Drugs are such a big economy there, and they have such a big hold on all the banks. So.
Yeah, the thing that really gets me is that, and don't take this the wrong way, but I sit here talking with you, and I wonder, what the hell do we think we're doing? We're going out. You're going out on the clothesline making these films. I'm going out on the clothesline talking about this stuff, plus my own opinions, which sometimes are every bit as dangerous as some criminal act somewhere. At least it'll have the same effect on somebody as if they were busted over a criminal act. Oh, that's right. We're talking about a criminal act they may have been involved in. And I just wonder if, we have in our minds that somehow we might be able to help something or improve something or stop something bad from happening. But I'm telling you, this evil just persists. And then on top of that, you have the Mark Stream media covering just what they want to and nothing else.
Well, that's why people like yourself, even though you might get deflated some days and you might not have energy to do what you're doing every day. I don't know how you do it, John, but you do it, and you know that you have a mission. That the mission's not done. I know a lot of people who've felt like they're deflated because they feel like I'm not making a difference. Look at Terry. What was it? I have his book. Let me. What the heck? Terry Reid. Sorry, this guy, right? Who are compromised, right?
Yeah.
Terry Reid. He got deflated. He told his book. It's a crazy book. Look at how closely the print is.
Oh,
It's crazy, and it goes all the way to the bottom of the page. This book is 500 and something 80 pages, and it's like 1,500 pages. This guy put his life work 532 pages. He put his life in here. He put his whole life in here, and after he printed it, he said, "I give up. Nobody's paying attention to this. This is a problem. This is a great book. It's 1,500 pages, really, in a full sense. But we can't give up."
No, that's the whole thing. You just can't. You just can't. And I'll tell you, I never thought. I've said this before. For Caravanners, forgive me if you're hearing reruns here, but when a different person comes on, then I'm going to talk about the same thing, run it past them too. I keep going back to the Bible, John, because this evil is all over the world. I'm convinced that there is such a thing as good, and I'm convinced that there is such a thing as evil, and I believe in the Bible. I don't see anything to argue its validity. The same rules that were set out when that book was written in the earliest scriptures on up through the New Testament, those are immutable laws. They applied then, they apply now. It's absolutely nothing has changed in human conduct since that book was written, other than we get the odd and occasional giant that'll show up in a cave in Afghanistan and get into some sort of a brouhaha with some troops or something. But I mean, okay, that's fine. I mean, you have all of these people trying to explain away the reason that we are on planet Earth. They try and make it into a self-worship. Let's worship each other. Let's worship ideologies that we created. Let's completely ignore the truth. Let's ignore the essence of the Bible, which is a guide for living on a planet where evil runs absolutely rampant day and night all over the place. People lie to each other. They screw each other over. They murder each other for money. You can get yourself killed over a cigarette. So imagine what can happen over a few $1 billion. They'll destroy a country that they don't give a damn about blowing up women, kids, dogs, birds, and everything else. They don't care. If you don't care about... Did you
see that interview with that Dutch banker?
It's not ringing a bell yet.
Oh.
Which
you didn't talk about it on your show?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
No, wait a minute. Which banker?
The Dutch banker that basically blew the whistle, that he was top of the pyramid, making all this money for all these huge elite people. He said basically there's about, I think he said about 8,000 people in charge of all the banks, and that basically they're they're basically, what he said was they were compromising people, bribing them by doing dirty deeds, some stuff we already know about. But he brought it out and said that he was there, and he did this for many, many years. He was basically watching how they hired proxy armies, started wars, told lies in all the countries around the world. They were trading drugs. And then he said that when he got to the point that they tried, he said that all these things didn't bother me. I was making tons and tons of money. That's what he said. And then he said they asked me to, at ceremonies, he said that they were basically Satan worshipers or Luciferian worshipers. Don't want to make any political mistake there. And they basically asked him to murder a child. And he said, fuck that, I'm not, oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Bleep that out.
Keep going.
He said, I'm not killing a baby. So, and then his performance as far as a bank manager making all the money, because that was what his job was. He was always there to make the portfolio go up.
Right.
He said, and eventually he quit. I can't believe he didn't watch it, and I'm going to have to give you this link so maybe your viewers could see it.
I'd love it.
It's a crazy. It's in German, I believe.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he still is alive. Dutch banker. Whistleblower.
I know of this revelation, but I don't know who did it. I don't know who the banker is. And speaking of bankers, how about all those bankers that were flying off of rooftops in a display of mass suicide of some sort? 2015, I think it was. All these bankers flying off of rooftops.
Yeah. A lot of these people were making tons of bank, and I think they were more disposed of because they knew too much than if they just couldn't deal with, whatever they were doing. But we already know that, what is it, Epstein Island, they have a lot of compromised people there.
Yeah.
They basically bribe people to participate in all these crazy activities, and they videotape them or archive them. And then they say, if you don't do what we say, we're going to reveal this, and you're going to be known as a child molester, and your life is ruined. So what great way. From what I understand, the people that are in charge of a lot of the stuff that's going on are people that have addiction problems, whether it be drugs, whether it be kids, whether it be women or children or whatever, maybe they have, I don't know, whatever they have. They have some affliction that they can take advantage of, and that's what this banker is really talking about. So.
Well, that's the thing, and you notice now. Maybe this is just being fanciful, but the moment that we start getting close, where a lot of stuff gets rolled out, hit me.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize, John. I'm so excited about telling people about Hector's story and journey. And letting people know. But I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
No, don't worry about it. That's why you're here, bro. That's no.
Okay, his name is Ronald Bernard.
Oh.
And Ronald Bernard, and he was a former elite banker who tells the evils about the banking process today, including child sacrifice and the proxy armies that are basically going on today.
Okay.
All that stuff.
Okay.
Definitely have to watch it. It's viral. It's a lot of people already seen it.
I know
but
who
if you haven't seen it, go check them out.
Yeah,
Dutch whistleblower exposes the Luciferian banking elite, and it's in German, but they have English subtitles underneath.
Okay. I know who you mean now.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm just writing some notes here because I'm going to make a big deal out of this, or as big a deal as I can. Look, I'll let you in on something.
Please.
I'm not really sure this is a good idea, but I'll do it anyway. I find that this is a mission, all right, and the one who has organized the mission and is running the whole operation has steered me very clear of people that I don't need to be associated with, which is why if I do not need to be involved with these people. I don't need the cars. I don't need the girls. I don't need the drugs. I don't need the money. I don't need that stuff. I don't need that much of what they have to offer. I just don't. I got a car. I like it fine. I got my girl. We're good. We're set there. There's really nothing that would tempt me to do something that would cause me to be in league with these people. Now, it's entirely possible I could get duped into it or something, but I would never voluntarily go, yeah, sure. So you're telling me I can have a chalet and I can have this and that and hot and cold running 16-year-old hookers or what? I'm not interested in any of that crap. I'm just not, you know.
Yeah, but, you know, they basically, when they recruit people from the higher up schools, they basically, I think they do some sort of litmus test to see if they do have some sort of a sociopathic attitude.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's
being manipulated.
True. Yeah.
You're not a sociopath, John. I think it's pretty clear I'm not. And I think it's pretty clear that everybody in your organization is not, and people that come on are not. We have empathy and we have care. Mark Passio talks a lot about the cremation of care and how basically every year they meet in California somewhere at the Bohemian Club, and they try to get rid of care from the world, right, through this cremation of care. And they've been doing it for years, for over 100 years. They've been going to this stupid, you know, they really do believe that this is going to, and right now there's a lack of care. If people just cared more, things would change for the positive very quickly.
Yeah. You know, just speaking with a minute ago. Go ahead, you finished. No, I'd rather hear you.
I was just going to say, everybody in your organization, people that are on here listening, they're not doing this for. They're sick and tired of the garbage that's on television. They're sick and they want to learn more about their world and that they live in. That's why I'm friends with people like Richard Grove, a fantastic researcher from Tragedy and Hope, and you've had him on your show.
Yeah.
That's why I try to seek out these people that try to tell me their stories about what they went through. And if they want to come to me, they can. I'll try my best to archive their stuff so that it could be preserved for future generations. But all of us have it. We're not seduced by money, but if you're a sociopathic attitude and you're poor, you might just about do anything to get rich. They exploit that trait, and that's what this banker said. He said, they were trying to make me into a sociopath. He said when they first met him, they said that you have to put your soul in a freezer, a deep freezer at negative 100 and don't let it out. You cannot think about this stuff. If you have a heart, you will never make any money in this business. You need to basically cut your heart out and just do what's necessary and think about that this is for the greater good, right? What greater good? We're going to kill a bunch of people in a proxy army. We're going to manipulate them to go to war with each other, but we're going to make all the money on both ends. That's basically what he was doing. And he said he was fine with that. But when it came to killing a baby himself, he couldn't do it.
Well, good for him. Yeah, the bullets and the bandages. If you can get, if you can sell both of those, you're in good shape. You're in a good spot. You know?
Yeah.
It's so basically what they're trying to get you to do is separate yourself from God, from your soul, from your conscience. And I mean, I never meant to turn this program into some sort of a ministry. Somebody I was talking the other day, somebody on the program said, this ministry that you're doing, it's like, I don't look at this as a ministry, but you know what? You know, John, maybe it is. Maybe it is, because a minute ago we were talking with, earlier, before you, we were talking with Raymond Ibrahim, and I said, maybe we've just become so self-indulgent now that we just, maybe the reason that the society is so screwed up is that we really don't respect each other anymore. Because, you know, I look at this guy or this guy looks at that guy, or we look at each other and we see a thief and a liar and a philanderer.
We size them up.
And a cheat. Yeah,
don't we size them up? We're almost in a habitual state of sizing people up, the way they look, the way they talk. That's another thing that Mark Passio talks about is don't judge me from how I look or how I sound. Just judge me on what I'm telling you and my actions. And that's pretty much any good philosopher is pretty much saying the same thing over and over. Don't judge me on how I look or talk or the color of my skin, any of that stuff. Judge me on my actions. And we need to understand that, you know, there's a great meme that shows a bunch of people, you know, straight, gay, religious, non-religious, and they're all skeletons. And black, white, you know, Indian, whatever you want to, you know, put anybody in there. Underneath the same skeletal structure as everybody else, you can't tell them apart. yet we always have this thing that's my side, your side, and this division that we need to create, even if we're not consciously doing. I need to work on that too, because sometimes I'll find myself judging people because of their political opinions or what they're believing. I need to realize that they're entitled to whatever they want to think, but mutually we need to understand that we're not trying to get into a fight with you. We just want to respect, like you said, respect your opinions. So.
Well, yeah, and it seems like every time that we get a little surge of awakening. For example, yes, it is obvious that the WikiLeaks had to do with the Democrats. Didn't see much coming out about the Republicans, although I find them equally useless, particularly the Speaker of the House, by the way. This Paul Ryan needs to go because they can't get anything done. But I mean, it's becoming, through this ongoing analysis of, really just 5 or 6 years. I tell you, ever since that 12/21/2012 end of the Mayan calendar thing, I've seen more stuff. There was a great awakening, and it is continuing. And there's more and more revealed about how completely corrupt these governments and these people that are supposed to be respectable. We're supposed to respect them personally, and we're supposed to respect their offices, and we just really can't do it anymore because all of these screens and shields are coming down and the smoke's being blown away, and there they stand. But there's no payback for any of the things that they've done. Nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's being disgraced. Nothing. It just goes on. And the moment that we start getting close to something like that, where if these investigations and these analyses continue, there's going to be some harsh blowback. The next thing you see is, Black Lives Matter is raising hell up in this city or that. The morons are protesting because they're not equal financially, mostly, and probably entirely would be closer to it. So they're going to protest on Communist May Day and make a big deal out of that. Then the moron idiot Americans go out and they celebrate Cinco de Mayo, which if they'll look into what happened on the 5th of May in Mexican history, they'll find it a very disappointing report and absolutely no cause for any celebration whatsoever unless you're just looking for an excuse to have a party, which all you have to do is just call your friend and say, come on over, we're going to have a party. What are we celebrating? Nothing. We're just having a party. I mean, Cinco de Mayo, give me a break. So the moment that
I think that more people are waking up because of the connection of internet, but I think that a lot more people are getting stonewalled with their. I guess they're getting attacked. Richard got attacked on his website. I know you got attacked on your website. They're trying to stop the information flow, and it might get worse in the future. But right now, we've never been more liberated by the information flow. Of course, yes, there's disinformation, and we need to discern and do research. Always do research to make sure that you're not spreading more disinformation with other people. Make sure you do your research. Find out all this stuff before you go ahead and share a link. But I think that we're more in a position of liberation than ever, yet there's more greedy, heartless, godless, soulless people out there, too, because they're so... Our brains are always with their cell phone, and our brains are so short-tempered, and our memories, we can't even remember phone numbers for people. Our mom's phone number, our sister's phone number, we need to rely on that cell phone. So we're so reliant on all this technology as well. So we need to start really thinking more about each other. And I don't know where I'm going with that.
No,
Sorry, John.
Well, you're absolutely right. No, you really are. And all I'm suggesting is that, I mean, for example, we had all these Russians. This thing the other week, we interviewed Joel Skousen, and the link to the ARC Midnight radio show that we do on Saturday nights, because we do this Tuesday through Friday, and then we do the radio show on Saturday night. And so it gets retweeted almost 9,000 times, and then we get up to like 870,000 clicks on that one show. 98.3% of them were from Russia, right? Now we got Americans and Russians talking about and deciding, say, we're not so very different after all. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. If you go to that YouTube channel now, you'll see that 870,000 is down in the 100s. Every day
Really?
It's gone less and less and less and less and less as Google and YouTube, mess with us.
They put traffic in front of you to stop the flow. What they'll do is they'll clog up the whole entire pipeline. And I've noticed that with some of my videos. When I started sharing videos on YouTube, they all of a sudden, I had 5,000 subscribers or so. Not a lot. I used to get a lot more, but now my subscribers are pretty much down to zero. I'm getting more popular. I'm interviewing more people, and I just don't get the views anymore.
Well, I'm saying,
but if I share it on Facebook, I'll get some of my videos have 500,000 views on Facebook.
Yeah.
And now if I share videos, I'm lucky if I get maybe 500 to some of the videos, if they're really good, are 7,000 to 30,000. But I'm not getting 500,000 views anymore. No way.
Yeah.
All that stuff is gone.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I'm looking at it, I'm going, we're up to what? It says 870,000 clicks. Then the next time you look at it, it's 500,000 clicks. The next time you look at it, it's in the threes. Now it's in the ones. So, it's as you say, they're just trying to choke it down. They're trying to minimalize it. Hell, they even put an advertisement for George Norrie's book or something about Coast to Coast. That'll be an ad that pops up on our YouTube channel.
Huh.
So it's like, my attitude is to hell with those people. I don't care what they do. They can choke down all they want to. We'll figure out a way to go around them because in the end, they got their apparatus, but they're not that smart. They're very intelligent, but they're not that smart. And they've misjudged the audience as well. They think that if you choke down the information, that somehow people will become less interested in the information. And what the dumbasses don't understand is that they become more interested in the information because you people have decided to stifle it, and it follows that, well, there must be some reason that you're trying to stifle this information.
Right. Yeah, and then you'll see some videos that are just like, a rat carrying a piece of pizza in New York City, and those will go viral, no problem.
Right.
But as soon as you try to make that video, like I have a friend, Ken Dock, I did a lot of FOIA requests for 9/11, investigations and stuff like that. The FOIA request was basically the computers that were seized during the FBI raids of urban moving systems. And I was stunned on how much information they gave me back in such a short amount of time. Ken and I have been working on a lot of that stuff together too. But he said, I take some of these popular videos and then I'll just inject a meme into it saying, go investigate 9/11 or go investigate this or go investigate that. And we're trying to penetrate, but he goes, it's not as effective as that. I don't know why. They just don't get the same hits. They may be the same exact video. Nobody's, but they're suppressing it. Somehow they are definitely suppressing a lot of information. There was one video I did with drones with a collaboration with Anonymous. They did the original video, then I redid it with their permission. I don't work with Anonymous, but I just got their permission, whoever that YouTube channel was. And I redid the video. That was done in like 2013 or something. Then the drone papers came out from The Intercept. And I figured that his video only had 1,200 hits. Maybe I can get a lot more. When I did it, it went to like 30,000 hits or something like that, maybe more. And then it just kind of stopped. I shared it with somebody, Keith Ward from Art with Teeth on Facebook. Very, very good artistic, political artwork. Art with Teeth. Got to go check that out. Anyway, so he shared it, and his went to 70,000 views. I was like, cool. And then like a year later, somebody copied the video that I did, and they got like over 4 million hits within a month.
Wow.
So, but they weren't a political website. They thought it was funny because Obama's dancing to all the bomb dronings going over, and I was bringing light to the Intercept papers that were released that said that 91% of the civilians or 93% of the civilians were being targeted by accident through the drone programs. And that number is still pretty much consistent. I thought I would have a lot more people looking at it, but they cut the part out about the Intercept being in there, of course, and their video went to 4 million views. So.
Well, for every action there's a reaction. For every measure there's a countermeasure, and I don't really much care what they do. I'm not looking for YouTube clicks to pay the light bill or anything like that. That's why we rely on the caravanners. They keep us floating. So we don't have to suck up to some advertiser or some or bend to some sort of official oppression, however disguised it might be as something else. And just by way of a suggestion that maybe you should take it this way, could make more money for you if you do it this way. It's like, listen, if I wanted people to love me, I would have become a vet, okay?
Yeah, I would have stuck with music videos because I used to do music videos and hang out with those people. I really don't like to do those. I'd rather spend my time doing something more meaningful. So.
Well, isn't that really what life is about? Doing something a little more meaningful. All right. Well, now let me ask you this: how do we follow what you're doing, and when will your are you currently? How many episodes of this current project you have underway will there be?
Well, I would hope that people would check out on Vimeo Rogue Narc, Rogue, Narc, Narc. Sorry. And then just search episodes. I don't know at this point. Right now, we're trying to make, I would like to see the whole entire shootout scene and other things get more elaborated, because I find that shootout scene crazy. First of all, it's the biggest shootout scene in the history of the DEA. It involves thousands and thousands of rounds. It's an interesting story. Hector's a great storyteller. So if people could go check out episodes 6 and 7, that would be cool. But you want to check them out, check them out. If you don't want to check them out, that's fine. We're trying to get the story on a big screen so that we can get other funds to do the full documentary. So we are trying to do that. I'm not asking caravanners to contribute any money if they don't see anything in value or anything here. Do what you want. Go check it out. Rogue Narc. If you don't want to check it out, that's fine. But I think it's relative to everything that's going on in 2017 with El Chapo and Cara Quintero and Mexico and all the drugs that are on the street right now. You don't care about that? That's fine. Just change the channel.
I get you.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, I get that. Now let me ask you this: how, if they did want to contribute, how would they do it?
I was going to do an Indiegogo program, but I thought about that, and they take a lot of money from you for doing those types of things.
Oh yeah.
If you want to help, just you can email me. I know that sounds really bad, and nobody's going to do it. So I could use the money, because I would like to go and interview these precipient witnesses that are still around. They're still living. And I can't do it on my own dime. We're trying to come up with funds from other people to do a larger project, but everybody looks at the project, and I have one of my best friends who I told him about the project, and he's a huge banker guy who makes tons of money. Remember you talking about the Lamborghini? He just bought a white Lamborghini. I told him about the project, showed him the shootout scene. He said he loved it. I told him about the entire project. He hasn't called me back at all. And basically, he and I, the 20-year friendship, he's involved, I think, with some of these people at Blackstone and other companies. I can't say that for sure, but what friend doesn't call you back and say, dude, he did tell me, it's a great project. As soon as I told him we want to make this into a film, I need your help, buddy. You have the money. He lives in a huge house, 15,000 square feet.
Oh, is that all?
Big, yeah, that's a big house. He's got like 8 cars. And I asked him for a small amount of money that he would make about 30 to 40% return on. And he basically said nothing. He didn't even call me back. Mm-hmm. So I'm still, that was like a week ago. So maybe he's busy. Maybe he's just, but listen, it doesn't take love and good experience and dedication alone to make projects like this happen. It does take somebody who would want to invest. I did try to reach out to Gary Haven, who I think would love this project, and I wrote him an email. I don't know if he got it or not, or if he even watched it. He probably has so many spam emails coming into his e-box. Can't tell you. It's up to the Lord if they want to help out, if the Lord wants to see this project fruition. There's so many people involved that see that this is a project that will further people's understanding of the entire drug war and how it affects us now. I feel like there's a good team already, and there's the drive. There's the drive and the care we have this passion. I can't explain it, John. It's just like a passion. Like if we get it, we don't get it. It doesn't matter. One way or another, it'll come together. Well,
so if somebody did want to contribute, how would they do it? If you're not doing Indiegogo, how are you doing it?
I can give you my email. It's massariaj@yahoo.com. massariaj@yahoo.com. And you could send a PayPal amount if you want, or just send me an email. Say, what's the project about? And I'll send you a whole list of stuff, whatever you want, I'll send it to you.
All right.
MassariaJ@yahoo.com.
All right, and now is that email address on your website?
It's at goodpixelproductions.com.
Yeah.
It's another way to...
Okay, and is that email address on the site?
Probably not.
Okay,
I think there might be a button on there for PayPal or something like that, but I don't know.
Well, it's in guest media.
I'm on Facebook. You can look me up, John Massaria, on Facebook. Just message me.
Well,
I'll send you whatever you want, any information you want. I have the transcripts of actually Kiki Camarena's murder, and they actually have transcripts because somebody who was there, who was from the CIA, recorded this and gave it to the CIA. One of the handlers gave it to the CIA, and the CIA gave it to the DEA. So I have so much information. I'll share whatever people want to know, as much as they want to know. I'll share it with you if you feel like if you want to know if the story is legit or not. All you have to do is look it up, and you'll see. But there's a plethora of information out there that I've worked on a lot of different stories. This is one of my favorite things to reveal because it has to do with our children and our streets today. I don't think we're going to stop the drug problem, John. Don't think that we're going to do that. I think that what we're going to do is maybe get people to realize that they're not coming in stuffed in people's pants, and maybe people will get a little outraged by this whole story and say, enough is enough. We need to make some policies to change. I don't think legalization, I think legalization is decent for marijuana, maybe for a certain age, like 21 or over or something like that. I don't think youth should be doing marijuana, but heroin and all those other drugs, I still think that those should be kept illegal. But I like the solution of China, what they've done, which is basically education and showing people the effects of what it does and offering them solutions. They have a very, very good educational program that goes on in China. They used to have a huge opium addiction problem in China, and they've come up with a lot of great solutions. So I'm not saying legalize it. I'm not saying, because let's face it, the government's making a lot of money. And so is Mexico, and all these companies are making all this money from the opioid addictions and all the problems. They don't care about that. We should start trying to do something within our communities and other things. But you can't do it unless you have a lot of back information, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's like I like to say, if you can't get a joint through the airport, how do you get 10 metric tons of heroin through the airport? I know, inside help. Right? I don't think they like that very much being broadcast over the public airwaves, but oops, too late. John, it was great talking to you.
I'm sorry I said a couple of bad words, John.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about it. We're all grown-ups here. You know,
okay.
I think most people have learned by now there's no telling what will happen on this program. Remove the children, or at least let us screen the program first, you know. But, hey.
Thank you.
That stuff's in the lexicon now, so it's just how it is. Don't feel bad about it at all. I don't. And God bless you, man. Stay safe out there. And if you need something from us,
John.
You got the contact info. Stay in touch with us. If, I repeat, if something good or bad happens, let us know right away, all right? And we'll lend a hand in any way that we can.
Thank you. Thank you, John, and all your listeners. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye now.
This is a wild Tuesday. It's wild. I'm getting wild with it. John Massaria got wild with it. It's wild. But I'll tell you what, it's things are more the way they were than they ever were before. I'll leave you with that. Talk to you tomorrow night. God bless. Be seeing you.